Dr. Susan was conducting an experiment on a highly dangerous predatory shark. She had attached a special device to the shark's brain, unaware that the creature could regain consciousness. The moment it sensed even the slightest threat, after a short while, the shark began to wake up, but the situation was quickly brought under control. Seizing the opportunity, Susan secured the device on its head and, using an advanced imaging system, inserted a long needle deep into the shark's brain. Despite being unconscious, the shark appeared to be experiencing intense pain, yet stopping the experiment was not an option. Finally, Susan extracted a rare protein from its brain. This protein was then combined with the brain cells of Alzheimer's patients. Everyone in the laboratory watched the monitors with complete focus, eagerly waiting for the results. If the experiment succeeded, millions of patients could benefit from the breakthrough, and the research team would earn enormous recognition and profit. As soon as the protein began reacting with the damaged brain cells, the previously dead cells slowly started showing signs of life again. Seeing this, the entire team became convinced that the experiment was a success. In celebration, one of the scientists lit a cigarette. However, he had no idea how costly this small mistake would become. The moment he carelessly approached the shark, it suddenly regained full consciousness after sensing the cigarette smoke. Without warning, it launched a violent attack. In front of everyone, one of the scientist's hands was torn from his body. Fear and panic instantly spread throughout the facility. The shark was now completely out of control. To stop it, Carter smashed the front glass and grabbed a harpoon gun. Meanwhile, Susan, determined to protect the valuable research results, made a quick decision and released the shark back into the deep water. None of them realized the disastrous mistake they had just made. Carter immediately contacted the main tower and called for emergency medical assistance. All of this was taking place inside a research facility built deep beneath the ocean. Outside, a powerful storm was raging, and for the first time, everyone witnessed the true fury of nature. Meanwhile, the injured scientist's condition continued to worsen as he lost blood rapidly. Because of the severe weather, the rescue helicopter could not land. As a result, the medical team attempted to reach him using a steel cable system. Afterward, everyone hurried toward the main base, knowing that the massive waves could become deadly at any moment. Most of the team safely reached the protected area, but the injured scientist lying on a stretcher remained in critical condition. Then disaster struck again. Due to the worsening weather, the lifting mechanism suddenly failed. Without any support, Kabul and the injured scientist plunged directly into the shark-infested waters below. When everyone looked back, they were horrified to see a massive shark clamping Kabul tightly in its jaws. The helicopter pilot instantly lost control. Within seconds, the helicopter crashed into the tower and exploded in a massive fireball. The explosion was so powerful that several sections of the base caught fire, and the entire surveillance and communication system went offline. As everyone stared at the control panel in confusion, Russell noticed something moving rapidly toward them. A moment later, they realized it was the same deadly shark heading straight for the glass wall while carrying their injured colleague in its jaws. As soon as it reached the lab, the shark slammed the man's body against the glass with tremendous force, creating deep cracks across its surface. The sight of their dying teammate and the damaged glass only increased everyone's fear. Just as they were preparing to leave, another disaster struck. The weakened glass finally shattered, and a massive wave of seawater burst directly into the laboratory. As the freezing water rushed in, panic spread throughout the facility. Everyone was now focused solely on survival. The water pressure was so intense that closing the gate seemed nearly impossible. Nevertheless, the team gathered all their strength and somehow managed to seal it. For the moment, they were safe. However, a far greater problem remained. After the massive explosion and the flooding of the lab, how would they escape from this deep-sea research facility? Even Syed, the only person who had gone ahead, had vanished into the water. Worse still, nobody knew what dangers might be waiting on the other side of the next door. With no other choice, the maintenance crew began running through the corridors while the rushing water chased them from behind. Finally, they reached a manhole and managed to open it just in time, securing at least one possible escape route. Meanwhile, the chef on the upper level was facing problems of his own. A smaller but extremely dangerous shark had been silently following him. Without looking back, he ran for his life and rushed straight into the kitchen. Although he had escaped for the moment, he knew he couldn't afford to relax. He grabbed a weapon for protection and noticed that the shark had moved away, allowing him to catch his breath. Still, staying there was too risky. He began climbing toward a shelf, unaware that the shark was already much closer than he thought. Just as he was about to reach safety, his pet parrot suddenly appeared in front of him. Startled by the bird, he lost his grip and fell back down. Even then, he refused to give up and tried climbing again while calling for his parrot. Unfortunately, things only got worse. The shark rammed the shelf with tremendous force, throwing the chef directly into the water. In that desperate moment, he spotted the shark approaching. To save himself, he quickly swam away and barely managed to avoid its attack. But the danger was far from over. The impact activated a stove, causing burning gas to shoot out in every direction. Looking for a way out, the chef began hacking upward with an axe. As soon as he created a small opening, he climbed onto the stove and jumped through it. The shark immediately turned its attention toward him once again. Everyone was left wondering how a sea creature had become intelligent, enough to hunt humans strategically. More importantly, how had it learned to use its prey as a weapon to break through glass? At that moment, Dr. Susan finally revealed the truth. In order to obtain the rare protein, they had injected an illegal chemical into the shark's brain. The substance caused its brain to grow slightly larger, dramatically increasing its intelligence. As a side effect, the shark had become far smarter, faster, and more dangerous than any normal predator. The revelation shocked everyone. Still, they needed to find a way out. The team came up with a plan to escape using a submarine, but they soon discovered that one of the sharks had already destroyed it. Now they were left with only a few options. The growing tension led to arguments and frustration among the group. Eventually, Russell suggested that they try diving out of the facility. But it seemed the shark had other plans. Without warning, it burst out of the water and attacked Russell. In a single strike, it clamped its jaws around him and dragged him toward the depths below. The horrifying scene left everyone completely stunned. But within seconds, seawater began flooding the elevator shaft at an alarming rate due to the air pressure difference. 2 team members risked their lives and somehow managed to shut the door. For a brief moment, they thought they were safe, but another disaster was already waiting for them. The explosion in the elevator section above had started a fire, and the equipment stored there was exploding one after another. At the same time, something inside the shaft kept slamming against the door with tremendous force, making the situation even more terrifying. Realizing that time was running out, Carter ordered the others to keep moving, while he went down to open the hatch on level -1. His plan was to control the rising water level before it became impossible to escape. The risky move worked. Carter managed to reach the hatch and open it just in time, allowing the water to drain. However, the moment the passage opened, a new threat emerged from the darkness below. Before anyone could react, a massive shark launched a sudden attack. Carter tried to help, but he was a second too late.
Right in front of everyone.
The shark clamped its jaws around a female team member and dragged her into the deep ocean in a single devastating strike. The horrifying sight left the entire team in shock. To make matters worse, they were still far from safety. Above them, strange noises echoed through the cables attached to the doors, as if the shark had already found a way to follow them. Fear was clearly written on everyone's face. Just then, the chef returned and quickly threw down a rope, helping the others climb up before they could fall into the water below. With no time to waste, the group continued moving forward. Ahead of them was a pumping system that could remove the flooding water if the generator was activated. Fighting through exhaustion and fear, the team finally reached the control room and managed to restart the generator. For a moment, it seemed as though they might actually survive, but their relief didn't last long. The shark appeared once again. After witnessing one of his friends being brutally attacked, Carter swam toward the main gate. Unfortunately, the shark immediately turned its attention toward him. Just as it was about to strike, the gate opened and the chef arrived at the perfect moment. Everyone's life was hanging by a thread. Meanwhile, Susan made a decision that could cost her everything. Believing that all their sacrifices would be meaningless without the research, she returned alone to her room to retrieve the valuable data and samples. She searched through the locker and collected everything she needed. Suddenly, she sensed movement behind her. For a moment, she thought a shark was approaching, but it turned out to be only a research model. However, the real danger was much closer than she realized. The next moment, the actual shark emerged from the water and attacked her directly. With no escape route available, Susan climbed onto a shelf in a desperate attempt to survive. In the chaos, her precious research files slipped from her hands and fell into the water. She hesitated for a moment and reached down to recover them, but as soon as she did, the shark began moving toward her once again. Now death was only seconds away. Then Susan noticed a damaged electrical panel above her and came up with a dangerous plan. She realized that a powerful electric current might be enough to kill the creature. Grabbing a loose wire, she waited for the shark's next attack. The instant the shark lunged at her, she thrust the live wire directly into its path. A massive surge of electricity shot through the water. The shark convulsed violently under the powerful shocks and eventually stopped moving. Although she had survived, Susan felt deep regret as she looked at her ruined research files. She finally understood that releasing the shark in the beginning had been the biggest mistake of her life, but there was no time left for regrets. The situation had spiraled completely out of control. The shark attacks had destroyed Carter and Susan's original escape plan. Now only one option remained: the emergency exit. The problem was that opening the hatch would cause water to rush into the chamber. To balance the pressure, they prepared a fire extinguisher and then courageously allowed the room to fill with water. When the water finally reached above their heads, they opened the emergency hatch. The moment they emerged outside, all three activated the fire extinguishers. The loud noise and thick cloud temporarily confused the shark, giving them the opportunity they desperately needed. For the first time in a long while, their strategy had actually worked. The three of them somehow managed to reach the surface, but their nightmare was far from over. Without warning, the shark suddenly attacked the chef, grabbing him and violently throwing him through the water. Despite the brutal attack, the chef refused to give up. He pulled out the cross hanging around his neck and repeatedly struck the shark's jaws. Against all odds, he managed to break free once again. Witnessing this incredible escape left Carter and Susan stunned. Carter immediately jumped back into the water, while the injured chef struggled to climb onto a piece of floating debris. Seeing his condition, Susan quickly bandaged his wounds to slow the bleeding. As they looked around at the destroyed facility, Susan revealed an alarming truth. Earlier, there had been a solid underwater barrier, capable of trapping the shark inside the research area, but after the destruction caused by the explosions, the entire structure was slowly collapsing. Only a thin metal barrier remained. This meant the shark was no longer trapped. It was now trying to escape into the open ocean. If that happened, countless lives could be at risk. At that moment, they realized there was only one option left. The shark had to be stopped. Working together, they removed the gunpowder from several signal flares and packed it into a harpoon. Their plan was simple. Once the harpoon struck the shark, its cable would be connected to a battery, delivering a massive electrical charge. Unfortunately, the shark stayed far from their position, making it impossible to get a clear shot. Then Susan made a decision that shocked everyone. She cut her hand and used her own blood as bait before jumping directly into the water. She knew that everything had started because of her actions. It was Susan who had injected the illegal chemical into the shark's brain, making it more intelligent and allowing the disaster to happen. Now she wanted to make things right. The blood quickly spread through the water. The shark immediately lost interest in Carter and began moving towards Susan instead. However, the creature was incredibly intelligent and refused to come close enough to the surface. Realizing that Susan's plan was failing, Carter jumped into the water to help her. Shark attacked Susan with full force and fatally wounded her. Carter could do nothing but watch helplessly as she sacrificed herself. Now the shark turned its attention toward him. The creature charged directly at Carter, but he managed to dodge the attack and grabbed onto its fin at the perfect moment. Meanwhile, the chef picked up the harpoon gun and carefully took aim. When he finally saw an opening, he fired, but the shot did not go exactly as planned. The harpoon tore through the shark's fin, and Carter's leg was badly injured in the process. The situation instantly became even more dangerous. The cable was still connected and under heavy tension. If Carter failed to let go in time, the coming electrical blast would kill him as well. In those final moments, Carter showed incredible courage. Gathering all his strength, he released the shark and pushed himself away. The second he cleared the area, the chef connected the cable to the battery. A massive explosion erupted across the water. The powerful electrical charge tore through the shark's body, finally destroying the deadly predator once and for all. After a while, the survivors realized that Carter was still alive. Although they had won, the victory had come at a terrible cost. Many lives had been lost and countless sacrifices had been made, but in the end, the nightmare was finally over. The monstrous shark had been defeated. And with that, this thrilling and dangerous story comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.